Hey, read through the word. Today is March 31st, and today we start the book of Judges. Today's lesson is called Cycles. I know I feel like I say this about every book of the Bible, but Judges, it really is one of my favorites, and we're going to talk about why and my adult Sunday school class that I teach now, I teach by myself. I used to co-teach another class, and then our pastor asked me to start another class so we'd have more room and stuff. So, but when I did that, right now I'm teaching through the Bible, using a curriculum called the Gospel Project, which I really love. And we, in my Sunday school class, we're actually in the book of 1 Samuel. But when I was doing the other class, I chose to do the book of Judges. I did, I think, a 6-week series through the book of Judges on a Sunday morning. I called the series Cycles. So today's lesson is called Cycles. So I want to, just like I love to do this when we get to a book of the Bible, to sort of help explain what's going on, how to read it, what we're looking for. Judges is sort of a bridge type of book between the nation and the kingdom. And I'll explain that as we go through. So Judges is the most modern book of the Old Testament. That's the way I say it. So I want us to look. Our verse today is Judges 2:11. And it says this. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight and served the images of Baal. And I'm going to read the rest of this section for you too. It says, they abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of Egypt. They went after other gods, worshiping the gods of the people around them. Remember what Joshua told them not to do? They angered the Lord. They abandoned the Lord to serve Baal and the images of Ashtoreth. This made the Lord burn with anger against Israel. So he handed them over to raiders who stole their possessions. He turned them over to their enemies all around, and they were no longer able to resist them. Every time Israel went out to battle, the Lord fought against them, causing them to be defeated, just as he warned, and the people were in great distress. Understatement. Yes, great distress. So, before I launch into talking about the book of Judges, I want you to make sure you pay, so this is your something old. I want you to pay attention to the story of Ehud. Ehud's the third judge. Today, Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, and then Deborah are these first judges that we cover in this section. And Ehud's story is like my middle school Bible class loves that story. It's great. Go read it. It's one of those you don't read in Sunday school, but it's a great middle school story because it's full of bodily excrement, and they just thought that was funny. And I described Eglon the king as Jabba the Hutt, so they really love that. So it's really very interesting and very funny, but can I tell you that the book goes downhill from here? So this is the top point of the book. So go read that as you're old for today, and comment to me. I want to hear what you think of it. If you've ever read it before, or I don't know, maybe the day you actually do this, I'll come on live and we'll talk about it or something, because it's great. But I wanted to cover the book of Judges today. So Judges covers a period of 325 years in the history of the nation. Judges makes it very clear when you read those first 2 chapters that Israel has not done what they were supposed to do. Remember how they never really took all the land they were supposed to. And it's going to come back and get them. Because God says, hey, You right in this first two chapters, God tells them, you didn't do what I told you to do. I gave you the land. I told you to go take it. You didn't do it. So I'm just going to let the people stay there, and you're going to have to deal with them. And that's what they have to do. So at this point, I think so many times we have this, which is why I slow down to tell you these things. We have this idea of Old Testament as lumped into Old Testament times, or what's even worse is we look at the Bible and say, Bible times. The Bible covers thousands of years of history. And a lot of things change. But this part is 325 years of their history in this time. They are not a nation, a united kingdom. They are not. They are a confederation of a loose confederation of independent tribes. Think of, now, this is where it's going to hit. I know American history, and I could probably go world history with some of you on this, but if you are in the United States, before there was a United States, we were 13 individual colonies. And there was no such thing as an American. You were a Georgian, or someone from New York, or you were from Pennsylvania. You weren't from America. There was no such thing as that until the Revolutionary War, and we became United States of America. Not as much united until after the Civil War. But that's a U.S. history lesson. But that idea, how yes, so when we think of Israel, they were Israel, but they were Dan and Gad and Issachar and divided into tribes. So that's how they function. And so that's why throughout the book of Judges, you will see people referred to as tribes. You don't see them referred to as a nation, because they're in the land, they've settled by tribes, and that's how they live. And so the book shows us people who did not listen to Joshua. And that's what the first verses say, is Joshua is gone and the people don't listen. And he said, remember, remember, remember. And they don't remember. They've not remembered God, and they've not remembered his ways. The book actually covers, so seven cycles of sin, or 7 cycles of apostasy of the nation. And so there's a pattern or a cycle that goes on throughout this whole period of time. The cycle begins with sin, as always. Now, I have taught this 2 different ways. My school kids, I taught it as S's, so sin, suffering, sorrow, salvation. I like the DCs. So, disobedient choice. So there's a disobedient choice. So they sin and they fall into idolatry. They marry other people. They do not follow the word of God. All the things that Joshua had told them to do, they don't do. So they keep doing this. And so then God will send in an oppressor. A disastrous consequence. Suffering will come to them. They were actually enslaved by other people. And we will chase so you'll see 7 different cycles of this. So they go from their sin or their disobedient choice, and then there's a disastrous consequence of suffering and oppression. And then they finally realize, hey, and what they do is they try to get themselves out of it. They try to get themselves out of it for a really long time, and then all of a sudden they go, hey, maybe we should ask God about this. So then they send up a distress call, or they are sorrow. I take it more of a distress call, that I don't think they're really sorrowful about what's occurring. It's not that they're sorry about the sin. They're sorry about the suffering. They want out of the suffering, and they want God to get them out of it. But they're not really sorry about the sin, or the cycle would stop. But it doesn't. Okay, so then Israel, they call out. So what they do is they have that, and then they get to that distress call, and they call out. And does God ignore them? No, he doesn't. That distress call, he sends a deliverer. He sends salvation. So as the cycle is going around, here they go. They go from this step to this step to this step to this step. And now we've got this right here. So God will send them salvation. God will send them a deliverer in the form of a judge. A judge is not like a judge with a hammer. A judge is a military leader. who helps. And then, so then what happens is then the judge comes in and everything's taken care of. They get rid of the oppressor. And then there's this period of time. And then a cycle starts again. And we go again. So that time period could be 20 years. It could be 40 years. It could be. So I would tell you to try to chart those yourself. Try to chart the 7 cycles of apostasy throughout the book of Judges that you see continually happen to these people because of their disobedient choices. But this is the thing. They have done exactly what Moses told them not to do. Exactly what Joshua told them not to do. They have forgotten God in his ways. They have decided to look at the world through their own eyes and do whatever they feel like doing. Remember, as we head through the book of Judges, we're always headed to Judges 21:25, the last verse in the book, which says, in those days there was no king in Israel, and everyone did that which was right in their own eyes. Yeah, at school we have days where we say, oh, it's a Judges 21:25 kind of day. Kids are going to doing whatever they think's right in their own eyes, not following the rules. I know maybe you have those days in your home that not everybody does what's right. They do what's right in their own eyes, but they don't do what's right according to the ruler, right? So it is the most modern book in the Bible of when what happens as Israel takes her eyes off of God and becomes her own judge. She decides what's right. We'll do whatever we feel is right. And it starts here. It is nothing but a downward cycle of sin through the whole book till you get, like when I teach this book with my students, I stop with Samson. I go no further in the book than with Samson. Those last chapters are R-rated chapters in the book of Judges. And it is absolutely horrific, the things that they're doing. But they think it's all right. They justify it. They think, well, everything's going on in the nation. We're all right. We're not that bad. Sound familiar? That's what I say. It's the most modern book in the Bible. Read it. So as we read through the book of Judges, I want you to see that these judges, God calls for a purpose and uses them. And some of these judges, there's only one judge that there's nothing bad about that person. We'll talk about her tomorrow. But these are sinful people, and they do sinful things. And God's using them for a purpose. As I will continually remind you, if God could not use sinners, we wouldn't have a Bible, and what good would we be? So, don't put these people up on a pedestal, because we're going to knock Gideon off one in a couple of days. And remember that it's God who is using these people to bring his people back. And that's what the story is in the book of Judges. Is his loving kindness, his steadfast love, his pursuit of his people, as he reminds them who they are and whose they are. So, we'll see you next time on Read Through the Word.